Hey everybody, Tim Rosgany here. I'm going to tell you a story about storytelling, and then I'm going to explain to you why I'm telling it to you. Yesterday, I was scheduled to chair a recovery meeting. It would be at 12:15, and I was late getting out the door, so I rushed out and hurried there. I was kind of anxious because I should have been there early if I'm the chairperson for the meeting, but I managed to get there just in time. And I was stressed out, rushed out of the car, got myself settled in my seat, and shortly thereafter realized, oh man, where's my phone? I don't have my phone. And I realized, oh crap, I left it in the car. I live in Florida, so leaving a phone in a parked car in a parking lot during the day is not really a good thing. So I found an opportunity to go out there and check. And I took a quick look because I was in the middle of a meeting. I couldn't find my phone. And it so was like, and I was very upset because you know how that is. We're so connected and addicted to our phones that when we lose it and we can't put our hands on it, it creates stress. So, all right, but I had to go back and chair the meeting and I couldn't let myself freak out about my phone. So I had to calm myself down. And I told myself, you know what? I realized, I probably left it at home. That's what it is. Because I didn't use it on the way to the meeting. I didn't need the directions. I didn't need to use Google Maps because I knew where I was going. So it was like, and that allowed me to sort of breathe easier and do the meeting. And then after the meeting, I was so proud of myself um, for doing a good job that I took myself to a little park nearby, took a little walk, and about 5 minutes into my walk, I remembered that I had, in fact, tried to use my phone to call someone. I used my phone to look up a number. I was going to call someone and see if let them know I was going to be late. But I couldn't, I didn't have her number. But it occurred to me, oh man, I did have my phone. I know I did. So I went back to my car, and after about 5 minutes of tearing it apart, going under the seats and everything, I found it. Just landed in this weird place. So, what's my point? Um, it just brought home for me my capacity to tell myself something that I knew, a part of me knew wasn't true. I conveniently forgot or it slipped my mind that I had actually used my phone, but I told myself a story that allowed me to get through the meeting that my phone was probably at home. And my story changed. So my narrative changed. At first it was, oh, I must have left my phone in the car. And then it was when I couldn't find my phone, it was, oh, I must have left my phone at home. And then it changed again when I remembered. So I think that reveals something very fundamental about the way we human beings move through the world. I believe that we are consummate storytellers, each and every one of us. Our very existence is the most complex narrative ever created. And we've been writing a story or given a story since we were born. Everything that's ever happened to us gets woven into a narrative. When we're younger, much of our story gets written for us by people such as our parents, caretakers, siblings, teachers, society, authority figures, whatever. That all of that uh, gets woven into us. We get handed a story. And then, we become the narrator of our story. And we try to make sense of the world as best we can, given the information we have. And that means we tell ourselves a story. Now, if you, like me, were raised in a family that wasn't the most functional, um, I got a crappy story. Maybe you did too. The story I was given, the narrative I was handed, wasn't very uplifting, didn't make me feel good about myself. I was handed a story that included a lot of information about how scary the world was and or how, unhealthy, unloved, unwanted I was, how weird, strange, whatever. I didn't get the kind of love and affirmation that I needed as a child, I didn't get handed a story about how beautiful it is to be alive and how amazing it is to be alive and how amazing this world is, this universe we live in. I got handed a story about how scary things are, how scary people can be, how you have to be so careful and be afraid. I got handed a story that had fear and shame as dominant elements, and I had no choice. I That was the story I was given. Of course, that became my narrative, and I moved through the world from a place of, you know, fear and anxiety and not feeling good about myself because of messages I had received in childhood. So um, I carried that with me uh, into adulthood, and I just, even to this day, that narrative is very powerful. And I'm aware that I have the capacity to rewrite my story. I'm also aware that I'm a very unreliable narrator. What happened yesterday showed me very, very clearly that the way I move through the world is a thought comes like, oh, I left my phone in the car. And that becomes reality. And another thought comes, oh, I must have left it at home. And that becomes my reality until something else comes along. And then I remember I did, in fact, have my phone. So it's like that becomes my reality. And I believe that that is what we do each and every day, each and every moment of every day. We are constantly interpreting the events around us and we fold it into our narrative. We weave it in to the story we tell ourselves. And so, my question to you and to myself is, what is the story that you were handed? And what is the story you're telling yourself? Because stories are incredibly powerful. And the story you're telling yourself makes all the difference. If something happens, how do you weave it into your narrative? Do you make it about you if something bad happens? Do you make it about you, that it says something wrong, that you're wrong, you're the cause, you're the problem? Um, if you have conflict in a family or a romantic relationship, what do you tell yourself about it? What's the story you tell yourself? I was handed a story in which, I got the message that it was my fault and I was the one who had to fix things. At least that's what I thought as a kid, that I could tell there was something wrong with my world, the world I lived in, the world of my family. And I wanted to fix it. And it seemed like it was my duty. And that when things went wrong, it was about me. And so I carried that narrative with me for the rest of my life. And that is still in there. But I started writing my own narrative. I started taking responsibility for the stories I tell myself. And I became aware through incidents like yesterday and so many others that I'm not the most reliable narrator for my own story. That my thoughts will come to me and I can act on those thoughts and then later on find out, oh no, that wasn't true at all. That was just what I thought. So it's amazing to me how much power I have as the storyteller, as the narrator of my life, how much power I have to impact the way I see myself, the way I see the world. So, my message to you, my challenge to you, is to ask yourself all the time, what story am I telling about this? Something happens. What's the story I'm telling myself? And keep in mind that we are not the most reliable narrator. I mean, in stories, in books, there's this idea of this omniscient narrator who knows everything and walks you through the narrative and tells you what's going on in each of the characters. Yeah, that's sort of like the God view. Yeah, that ain't us. We're not that. My perspective is imperfect, and I am susceptible to being swayed by thoughts and feelings. Oh God, don't even start talk about feelings. I mean, all of those things can sway us so that the way we see things is not necessarily the way things are. And the way other people see things is not necessarily the way things are. We as human beings are the most unreliable of narrators, and our perspectives are limited. And they're limited by what we were handed as kids and by what we continue to believe as adults. So, be aware of the story you tell yourself. Start to tell yourself a different story if you don't like the one you were given. I don't like the story I was given about being unworthy or unlovable or weird or stupid or crazy or any of that stuff. And it's like, no, that's not true. That was the story I was handed. And the more that I allow that story to hold sway, the greater and greater disservice I do to myself as a human being. So I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to tell myself a better story, a story where no, I was given information that was wrong. I know it's wrong. I am worthy. I am lovable. I'm fine. I'm good. And I don't need to prove anything. And knowing that I am imperfect frees me up because I'm as imperfect as you are, and that's a good thing. So my story is just as true or as false as yours. But whatever story you tell yourself, that becomes your reality. So be careful what story you tell yourself. Ask yourself where it came from and think about it. And I think that if you do that, you will see that you have the capacity to tell yourself a better story. So, with that, I will stop. Um, you'll see a link to my most recent video showing up. You'll see a link to subscribe. Feel free to do that. And until next time, please be gentle with yourself. Thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care.